Until that point in my life, I had never wanted to throw someone overboard. But right then, I did. In hindsight, I'm glad I didn't. But the moment Fred suggested, "Let's sing," I was ready to throw him into the Pacific. I should go back a bit. So this was 1988, and I, along with about 20 others, were volunteer teachers living on the island of Pohnpei. It's in the Federated States of Micronesia, way out past Hawaii. I taught high school English. Most days I loved it, but after 3 months of teaching, we needed a break. So 9 of us found a boat and driver and went off of our small island to an even smaller, uninhabited one, Atoll. We went and spent a few days camping, snorkeling, diving, just hanging out. And after all, an atoll is basically a ring of beach with a few trees and no island in the middle, just more ocean. It was awesome. Yeah, but as happens with vacation, it ended and I had to go back to work. But here was the problem. A storm had blown over the main island and waves were up. There were 9 miles of ocean between us and home, and we were low on gas. Our boat driver pointed out that if we took a shortcut across the reef to the northeast, we could cut off almost 4 miles. If we headed out the south of the channel, the way we'd come in, well, that would cut us really close on gas. So we decided to shortcut, and it did not go well. The boat was way overloaded. It was a 21-foot open hull design, no seats, think bathtub, and it had a single outboard motor. And we had crammed 9 scuba tanks, a weekend's worth of food, water, camping stuff, plus 10 people into that little boat. It was way too much. As soon as we hit the edge of the reef, the waves broke over the boat, capsized us, and pushed us back to the reef, tossing the boat onto several teachers and grinding them across the coral. It was even less fun than it sounds. We also lost all our remaining food and submerged our only motor. The shortcut was not going to work. After salvaging what we could, we spluttered across the atoll toward the channel. When we got there, the waves in the ocean beyond the channel were huge, over 20 feet from peak to trough. The waves that sunk us on the shortcut were under 5 feet tall. But those were reef line breakers, you know, the kind that curl and break. Those had broken into the boat and rolled us. These were massive open ocean rollers. This was the proverbial rock in a hard place, except for us, it was waves here or waves there. So we beached and waited to see if they'd go down. I had a journal, and I spent the time writing goodbye letters to family and friends. It really was that serious. We were out of food, out of water, and had been wearing the same salty, crusty clothes for 3 days. Some of us were nervous, some of us were hurt, and some were getting a little cranky. We had no cell phones, no sat phones, no such thing as a Coast Guard out there, no life jackets, not even a single paddle. But we had to go back. Nobody was going to come get us, so we launched. There wasn't a lot of talking, just the sound of the spluttering outboard, the slow rhythmic pounding of the hull as we crested each wave and fell with a thud on the other side. That would cause a huge splash and the wind would slap the spray across our faces. We all sat on the floor of the boat, facing inward. I was in the back of the boat, and as I looked forward, I could see Fred in the bow. As we chugged up each wave, it was Fred and sky, and then Fred and ocean, as we went into the next canyon of water. As we got further out to sea, the waves began to whitecap, and then began to break. We didn't have much more than 8 inches of freeboard, so the slightest tip or breaking wave would fill and sink our boat. This is when Fred suggested we sing a praise song. And this is when I wanted to throw him overboard. This wasn't the time to sing. This was time to panic. I had written goodbye letters. Chances were good that we were going to die and getting higher by the minute. And Fred wanted to sing. A few minutes later, and even the boat driver felt that this was hopeless. He turned the boat around and we lurched back to the island. I spent a sleepless night there listening to the roaring of the ocean. You know, it's hard to sleep when you're not sure if you'll die in the morning. So how are you feeling? Do you feel that your life is in a storm? What are the wind and waves in your life? Finances rocky? Health fragile? Work going poorly or not at all? Are you in a sinking relationship? And now we're all headed into uncharted waters with the coronavirus, COVID-19. Yet in the middle of the storm, when things seem most dire, there are folks like Fred who are ready to sing. Why is that? Is that even possible? Is that even for real? Yes, it's for real. But it's something it took me years to figure out. I was reminded of this story with me, Fred, and the sinking boat when I read part of Mark, chapter 4 this week. Let me read it for you. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across the other side." And, leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. And other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. That's the part that reminded me. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care if we are perishing?" And he awoke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was great calm. And he said to them, "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" Now, I won't say it was PTSD when I read that, but it sure brought back memories. And then I got to thinking. Sometimes Jesus calms the storm, and sometimes he calms us in the storm. And that was Fred. It wasn't me at the time. Well, then I was angry, or so I thought. It wasn't until a long time later that I realized it wasn't anger, it was jealousy. Fred had a peace I didn't have. See, I knew about Jesus, but I didn't really know him. And it's in a relationship with him that I've found that peace. And it's a peace I wish for you too. Now, peace is not denial, and it's not having all the answers. And it's not even knowing what comes next. It's the peace that can only come from knowing Jesus personally. It's knowing he is with me in the storm. He might not calm every storm, but he does calm me. If you want that kind of peace, ask him. Read about him. I would suggest starting in the book of John. Get an easy-to-read translation and look at all the places where he offers peace in the middle of a storm. He wants to do that for you too. Right, back to the atoll. Well, about 4 a.m., our driver saw a small fishing boat and flagged them down. He arranged to split our group into 2 boats, and by then the ocean had calmed down a bit, and we made it home. It was not all smooth sailing, but we made it home, and you can too. And I'll tell you from experience, it's a much better trip with Jesus and his peace in your boat.